Today we've got the architect of modern wrestling comics himself, Michael Kingston. He's the creative force behind Headlocked Comics, a groundbreaking series that's brought the world of pro wrestling to the page with legends like Mick Foley, Jerry Lawler, and Trish Stratus. Stick around as we dive into the stories, the art, and the passion behind wrestling's first true comic universe. Let's get into the show. This program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into this exciting episode of the Scene Project Sports Network. With me today is Mike Kingston. Mike, welcome to the show, brother.
How you doing? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to Matt Classic Creed for connecting us, man. I know you're in town. You're close. We won't get to meet in person, unfortunately, because I have other obligations this weekend. But give us a little bit of backstory, and then we'll talk about, obviously, you being in Sioux Falls for the Sioux Falls Comic Con.
So yeah, I was a kid who loved wrestling and comics. And I felt like anytime I would buy wrestling comics, they were really kind of lame. I think everybody kind of has consumed things that were made for money and things that were made for love. So, I always just kind of felt like the people that made wrestling comics didn't really care about wrestling and didn't care about wrestling fans or whatever. So I decided to make my own wrestling comics. And then I was summarily turned down by everybody in comics. Just sometimes in brutally harsh terms. A guy from a large publisher literally laughed in my face. So I made my own books. I started selling them on my backpack at wrestling shows. I built a readership. And then a lot of the wrestlers who like comics would buy my books from me. And we started making books together. And it's just sort of grown and grown. Now I've collaborated with probably 50 different famous wrestlers. Ric Flair, Jerry Lawler, Mick Foley, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Sergeant Slaughter, just a ton of big names. And, I do about 30 Comic Cons a year now. I've got to see the world and I got to meet all my heroes and make art with them. And that's been, kind of the coolest thing ever.
That's so cool. And something that you hit on there is funny because I was talking about it and I'm going to show them off a little bit. So I work with a new magazine called Tumbling Rock Zine out of Minnesota. And it was something that started about a year or so ago that the way the ladies put it is it was a joke. We did it as something for, one of their own band shows. And then everybody's like, oh my God, I love that. And it's for the love of it, right? And we talked a lot last night about, it has to be a little bit of a business, but we don't want to make it icky, right? We're not in it to make money. We're in there to support the artists that we love. And for you, it was just supporting and writing about the things that you love in an art form that you had a passion for. So the parallels of just like the last 12 hours of my life between, talking with the gals last night and then talking with you today, it was too juicy not to just bring up and kind of put that out there. So awesome, man. So did you kind of grow up drawing and making illustrations, or was it more of the stories that you kind of come from it from that angle?
Yeah, so I do everything but draw. But one of the cool things about my books is a lot of the artists that I use are trained wrestlers that are also professional grade comic book artists. So Jerry the King Lawler painted the covers to a lot of my books. He had a lot of art skills. It's how he got into wrestling in the first place. And then I have a Samoan wrestler from New Zealand. His name is Mikel Molapola. He does the art for Headlocked. And then I have another artist named Doug Hills, who was a trained indie wrestler. And then he kind of gave it up before he became a full-time comic book artist. And so it's kind of cool because we're doing stories about the art of wrestling and doing art with wrestlers, but then also having the wrestlers contribute artistically as well as, storytelling.
Yeah, that is so cool. So you're kind of writing the story. Like, oh, I'm so interested. I've never talked to anyone who's written a comic book, so I have like a million questions, and I'm going to try to
Sure.
keep it in order a little bit. But so the process, do you kind of come up with the story first and kind of storyboard, and then they come with the illustrations after that? Is that kind of the basis for how it's made?
Yes, yes. So I do the story, or I co-create a bunch of stories with different wrestlers. I have a series called Tales from the Road where I collaborate with a wrestler and we come up with a story together. And then, I write a script, and then, we go back and forth on it until we're good with it. And then, we send it to the artist, and the artist does the art. And then it goes to a letterer who does the word balloons and the caption boxes and the title and the trade dress and all that. And then it goes to a printer to get made, and then hopefully into somebody's hands to read it.
That's just awesome. I love hearing stories of someone who's passionate about a sport or an artist or something, and is able to build that up for themselves. How long have you been doing this, Mike?
About 15 years or so. It was a long process of me, when I just had my first book. Because the other thing that people don't, comics are super, super expensive to make. Like, it's a horrible business plan. Like, it's high overhead, low price point. They'd laugh you right out of Shark Tank. But if you're in it, right, like you're in it for the love of the game. I'm doing a panel at this show this weekend. I'll talk about that later, I guess, but about making your own comics and stuff. But I always tell people, Robert Kirkman got rich off The Walking Dead, but like, there's not a lot of people who make a ton of money. But I wouldn't trade my life with anybody for, what I've got to do, what I've got to experience or whatever, because I make comic books out of my bedroom. So it's been a dream. I just want to make a cool wrestling comic. And I never thought, I'd be sitting down with Ric Flair to come up with a comic book story. So.
Right. And I kind of mentioned it off camera that I was covering a PGA event. I started this podcast in my garage, and last weekend I was interviewing Hall of Famers Rondé Barber and Chris Carter. Right? Right. So as a fan, like, you started this passion project, and now it's giving you access to the people that you grew up loving. Like, what more does a guy need, right? Who needs all the money in the world if you're not having to pay for the experiences that you are spending your money on anyway?
And that's funny because so many people like wrestling. So I've gotten to do, like, sort of tangentially had, people who are involved in wrestling were able to do, do stuff for me. So, like, the bassist for my favorite band is Gaslight Anthem, and the bassist, Alex Levine, is a wrestling fan. He loves my books, which is cool, and like wrote a pull quote for me. And then, my favorite TV show ever was The Wire, and the second season is my favorite season. Chris Bauer, who played Frank Sabaka, was my favorite character, and he just wrote a foreword for Volume 3 for Tales from the Road. So like for me, like, sort of the juice is like meeting, creators that you respect, and then having them respect what you do. Like, that is.
And money can't buy respect, Mike. I don't care how much of it you got. And that, I'm living it in the same way, right? We're just a year and a half or so into our broadcasting career, right? But what it's brought me and the way I get treated by people is so far beyond whatever monetary value could be placed on it. And sure, could it be worth a little bit more? Probably. But eventually somebody comes along that sees the value in that and is willing to work on commission and go find the money.
Sure. And, for me, I just want to make enough money to keep making comics. That's all I really care about. I just want to make comics. I have a million stories in my head that I need to get out onto the page. And so that's all I really want to do. And I want to see the world. I grew up poor, and like, I didn't get on a plane until I was in my late 20s. And at the end of this year, I'll have 5 states that I haven't been to. I got brought to Australia. I got to pet koalas with Bret Hart in Australia. Like, it's an insane life. I've been all over the place, all over the country. I've got to see so much of the world. I've got friends everywhere. Like, it's just the best, man. I wouldn't, like I said, it's interesting too, because when you start out, like, you go through these hardships, right? Like, I had this guy laugh at me, and I had a the comic book store in my town said nobody would ever read my books. And, I had a lot of naysayers at the beginning, and, I chased a lot of publishers for a long time. And then when Kickstarter became a thing, like I was able to just make my books and sort of just take them to people directly. And then our first Kickstarter hit for $27,000. So it's, you know what I mean? Like there's times where you just kind of, the rejection kind of sucks and you're going through it and you're struggling, but ultimately it made me build a stronger property. It made me build a stronger foundation to what I can do. And, I've been able to make books longer than a lot of people. I mean, there are people that have tried to do what I do and they haven't lasted. So, it's interesting. It's it's been a struggle, but whatever. Like I said, everything that I went through brought me to where I am, and I wouldn't trade where I am for anything.
Brother, I sold overpriced magazine subscriptions door to door. I know all about rejection. And in some ways, I'm very grateful for that opportunity because it made me so callous to that, right? And now I'm not afraid to knock on. Hi, I'm Bubba Startz. I have an award-winning podcast, and to see where that leads me. And I'm not afraid of no, right? Because I know that the guy next door might say yes. And it's always that like eternal optimist side of that, has been, because you beat down that other side. You beat down that pessimist. You go, look, if you're going to live in that space, you're never going to make it, right? If you're going to, be afraid of the word no, then you're never going to make it anywhere in life, really. So love your story, man. I got to know, what's it like working with the King?
Oh, it's great. It's crazy, like he's one of my best friends now. I sent him a cold email through his website, probably 13, 14 years ago. Forgot I did it after I did it. It was such a lark. Like I knew he did art. And then he sent me an email back and said, send me some books and I'll take a look at it. And, I just assume it's a webmaster or something, but all this time it's him. And then, he just called me up like a week later. He's like, hey, I just got your books. They look really cool. I'd love to do something for you. And, we've been all over the country together. I've stayed at his house. I've been backstage at probably 24 WWE events. I've just got to do so much. And he didn't have to do anything but it was interesting because when he started, he got into wrestling through his art. When he was a kid, he drew the Memphis wrestlers and sent them to the TV station, and then they put them on the air. And then they sort of hired him as like a courtroom reporter type thing where he would draw what happened at non-televised events. And then eventually that led to him training to become a wrestler. So, when he saw my email, like that was his opportunity to pay the kindness that Lance Russell gave him when he was younger, trying to break in. And so he paid that forward to me, and changed my entire life. And so now I do panels for people who want to make their own comic books. And I try to pass on my wisdom and get people sort of creatively inspired. It's sort of half instructional, half motivational, trying to get people fired up and, to sort of get past their fears of, you have to have, you have to get over your fear of, sucking, because you're going to suck for a while before you get good at anything. And, getting past your fears of putting yourself out into the world to be judged and all that. So, yeah, it's been what Lance Russell did for Jerry, 40, 50 years ago or whatever, 60 years ago now probably, is, that one act of kindness sort of is echoed all the way up to 2025 and beyond.
I was in Memphis earlier this summer and walked by Jerry's place down there, and just like when I think of wrestling, all I hear is his voice, right? I'm a fan from way back in the day. Don't follow the pro side of it much, probably because I don't have cable, so I'm not tuning into that.
Sure.
But working with Matt and AIWF and getting to know some of the promotions that are right here close to me, promotions like Below Zero Wrestling, which is up in North Dakota. I know we have some great wrestling folks that are right there in Sioux Falls. I'm sure you're going to meet some of them this weekend. It's so awesome to see where like the independent side of wrestling has come, and how many of these independent promotions are out there doing it. And it's really cool to be a part of that and to be someone that can use my platform to promote those things and to watch that grow. And that's all. I'm all about the little guys, right? Like, yeah, to go and do the WWE events is awesome, and to do the PGA or whatever I'm doing, right? Like, those things are great, but it's really about, being able to watch someone grow from, nobody and that obscurity to watching their track all the way up to the top and getting to watch that whole kind of hero's journey. And now I find myself right in the thick of it. It's really cool. And it's awesome to hear your story, and also getting to hear some of Jerry's story that probably a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, no, Jerry is one of the most influential wrestlers in the history of wrestling. Like, almost every part of what we consider modern sports entertainment started in Memphis under Jerry. Like, he had celebrities, right? He did the Andy Kaufman thing. He had celebrities before WWE did the, Cyndi Lauper or whatever, He had Adam West as Batman on his show in Memphis. He had a Dr. Frankenstein character. He had, years before The Undertaker existed. Almost all of ECW was sort of taken from Memphis, that sort of brawling, weapon style, whatever. Like, almost everything that we consider modern sports entertainment, like, Jerry and, his crew in Memphis did first before anything else. Obviously WWE is a monster, and, the big companies sort of rewrite history to, whatever. But, like, Jerry is probably, to me, the most influential wrestler in the modern era.
Yeah, not like he gets no credit, but he probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves.
Well, obviously, a lot of people know him as just the puppies guy, and he is the puppies guy, right? But he is so much more than that. Like, I've been to more art museums with Jerry Lawler than any other person on the planet. Whenever we're in a town together and there's an art museum nearby, we go, look at the art. Like, he loves Norman Rockwell. He has a Norman Rockwell original in his house, and we've been to the Norman Rockwell Museum together probably about a dozen times.
What's his commentary like on a Norman Rockwell museum?
It's just, he loves, like, he's a big art nerd, but it's a side of him that not everybody sees, And a lot of people didn't see, what he did in Memphis. You know what I mean? A lot of people just know him as sort of heelish, over the top, WWE guy that he was. And that was his sort of biggest platform. But he's done everything. He's recorded a record album. He's been in movies. Like, he's an artist. He is just, like, a true, like, he's one of the most talented people I've ever met. Like, and it all comes so natural to him. Like, it's interesting because, a lot of people have to work at stuff, but he's a natural artist, and he's just, I don't know. I think he's just an incredible man. And so generous. Like, he's changed so many people's lives. Like, he invented the Rock and Roll Express gimmick, right? He invented the gimmick for Kamala. Like, he signed Hulk Hogan's first car loan in Memphis. Like, he's just, there's so many things that he's done for so many people over the years that, nobody will ever know, or nobody ever, he'll never get, like, credit for. And he doesn't go looking for it either. He's a super, super humble dude. But yeah, just, I would step in front of a bus for the man.
And I'm sure he would do the same for you and a great many other people.
Yeah, he's just the best, man. And I've met so many people like that, so many wrestlers. There's this sort of opinion of wrestling as a sort of a carny business, and it is to a certain extent. But so many people have been so nice to me. I had Ric Flair bought me $150 shot of Louis XIV on my birthday, like, a bunch of years ago. Like, just crazy stuff. I was a guest at WrestleMania back, in a catered luxury box, and I've got to do so many cool things. And I make comic books that, half, 3/4 of the world have never heard of or whatever. So it's a dope little existence.
For sure. Well, and now it feels like it's coming full circle. You mentioned speaking on the panel this weekend. Sioux Falls Comic Con is going on at the Denny Sanford. Is it in the convention center or where's it at?
Yeah, it's in the convention center.
Very cool.
Yeah, it should be a good time. There's a lot of really good comic book creators. Carrie Payton from The Walking Dead, he was King Ezekiel, is there. Cooper Andrews, he's also on The Walking Dead, is there. And then there's a ton of great comic book creators. Steve Orlando writes for Marvel. Gail Simone writes X-Men. I can't even think off the top of my head, but there's an incredible lineup of comic book people. There's some cool celebrities. There's tons of cool things. There's a cat rescue if you want to adopt a cat, and it's got like a Jurassic Park theme going on. It's Jurassic Park. It's amazing. So yeah, it's definitely a great way to spend your weekend.
No, and I know a friend of the show, Night Shield. He's a local rapper and great man himself. Does a lot for the Native community all around here, and he'll be there because he's a huge comic book fan. He actually just started a podcast talking comic books, I think. So I'm gonna make sure that he's got your info and you guys connect this weekend. What advice do you have for young people out there that are looking to start their own comic book, and what's kind of the best way for them to get started in the industry?
I mean, the things that I always tell people, I mean, the thing that people come up all the time, people will come up, I had an idea for a comic book, but it was just like The Walking Dead, but they already made that or whatever. And like, The Walking Dead's it's a great comic. I mean, I have them all, but it ain't Shakespeare. You know what I mean? Like anybody could do that. Like what people think, so many people think that people are talented per se, and it's just like God-given, and so much of it is just work and grind and hustle, and just the people who refuse to quit. There are so many people that are just, you have to just get over your fear of not being great, and just you start out, you make your thing, and it sucks, and you get better, and you just keep at it. I mean, it's just, there's so few people that are like sort of just genuinely gifted. I mean, most of the artists I know are just, people that have just drawn forever, and you just get better and better and better. I mean, anything that I have done is within anyone's capability. You just have to believe that, like one of the things I do when I get, because everybody gets imposter syndrome no matter what, every creative I know gets imposter syndrome. When I feel that way, I just look for like the sort of biggest dipshit I can find that's doing what I want to do and be like, all right, if this guy can do it, I got it.
Oh, that's so great. And for me in the podcasting world, there's plenty of those to go around. So I usually don't have to look very hard.
I mean, it's never been easier for people to sort of make their own comic books. I mean, it's also never been harder to find an audience. And that's what you have to do, right? Like, you can't just make it and put it out into the world. Like, you have to actively put it in front of people for people to see. And the other thing I tell people, I think every person in the world has at least one good story in them. And I think people try to like round the edges off to make things more marketable, or they think about like, oh, I should do this, and people would like it or whatever. Just tell your weird story. There's a story in you that only you can tell, that is a collection of your relationships, your experiences, your traumas, the way you respond to things or whatever. Like, tell that weird story, because if you're just going to do your version of Superman, people are going to read Superman, because why wouldn't they? I mean, 70 years of brand awareness and whatever, but like, tell your weird story that only you can tell, and put all of you into it. The example I always give is Deadpool, right? Like the first Deadpool in Wolverine Origins, where he had swords for hands and his mouth was sewn shut, and like that wasn't the character, and everybody hated it. And it was played by Ryan Reynolds, but Ryan Reynolds had an affection for the character and went and sort of made his own version that was more character accurate, and he made $1 billion. Like it's just do the thing you love, and put all of your passion and your love into it, and maybe you're going to make some money, maybe you're not, but you're going to be happier, you're going to be creatively fulfilled. And to me, that matters a million times more than just hacking out some, some awful story for, people to be, marketed to.
Great advice, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, taking some time for me this morning. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? I'm sure you got a website and stuff like that where we can find these comics.
Yeah, my website and all of my social media is all Headlocked Comic. It's one word. It's the past tense of Headlocked Comic. It's my website. It's any social media platform I'm on. That's my handle. And it's all me. So, if you have questions about trying to make your own comics, tell shoot me a message and be like, hey, I saw you on Bubba Startz, and I want to know some stuff. I will gladly let anybody stand on my shoulders to not have to make the mistakes that I made. Yeah, I think if you like wrestling, if you like comics, you'll love it.
Fantastic stuff, Mike. I really appreciate you jumping on. Thank you for taking some time for me, and thanks for being part of the scene.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate you.